In the realm of mind, the body is a limitation. In spite of the mind wanting to turn inwards, does it, the body, let go of its sovereignty? Mind wanders again and again where there is dichotomy. Thou art within and without, in need, in this form and in all circumstances, only remember this. To destroy the harmful, keep the mind engaged in remembrance of the Ishta. The mind has been engaged so far in sense objects. Now, engage it towards God. You'll see the path will gradually open up. Thoughts of sense objects will leave. Thoughts of sense objects are sure to leave. The veil will also gradually disappear. What is impermanent will certainly be destroyed. One can apply the mind to both tying and untying the knots. Mind creates knots only on thinking of sense objects. The thought of God works for untying the knots. You had enough in the domain of karma. Now try to engage your mind towards God. Invaluable time should not be spent away. Those who do not think of God and do not go for self-realization are self-killers. Accept the adorable and leave the pleasurable. One should try to keep the mind in God, even reluctantly. To achieve God should be the only target. There is no co-traveler to be in the company of God. Nothing else is there. That which is there is the way to God only. It is natural for the mind to become restless unless it is kept on God. Try to keep the mind immersed in the feet of God by doing japa, meditation, reading spiritual texts, either deliberately or reluctantly. Why repent for the mind not being fixed in God's name and its wandering? Instead, think this way: the mind is not under my control. So shall I not be in its control and shall keep on chanting the name of God. Don't you see children flying kites in the sky? The kite flies and flutters at great height but remains joined to the reel by the thread. The mind is like the kite and the sense objects is the wind. Keep the mind tied with the thread of God's name. Someday it will come under control. Give the mind pure food. By sparing more time towards Him, there is hope of the intellect to be in the direction of God. When the mirror of consciousness is clean, God reveals Himself. The state at the last breath is achieved in accordance with that state where you are now. The thoughts in the mind of the company around and behavioral confusion are caused by the surroundings. This confusion arises when one has to mix with those who are not introvert. One has to go above the waves after having a dip in the ocean. Man should take such an attitude. It is suggested to take pure food, to have the right mindset, to be well behaved and to read spiritual texts so that confusion cannot arise. From whom the creation came forth, move in the way and direction towards that. You can manage everything if the power comes from that source. It is hard to become a traveler on this path without God's grace. But after becoming a traveler, one should not have a vacillating mind, which is not propitious. Lead the austere life with a strong resolve. The ultimate Lord on this way is God Himself. To understand that God is in everyone, japa and meditation are to be practiced. Practice to keep the mind on God is a must. The mind gets absorbed the way it is directed. If one tries to direct the mind towards God, who is ever in union with one, with the intention to get His touch, then only there is hope of feeling His touch. It is by His grace indeed that one travels the long way with the yearning to get His vision. Only take resort to patience, one should not lose heart. Wherever one is and in whatever way, mind should be kept in His direction. God fulfills the wish of a seeker of truth. He manifests Himself in the way one wants Him and He does whatever He wills. He awakens as well as fulfills the longing of the mind. It is the duty of man to keep the mind in God's remembrance, japa, meditation and daily rituals regularly and wholeheartedly. On the path of sadhana, there should be no accumulation of exhaustion in the mind. The more the mind is kept clean, the more it will be helpful to proceed in that spiritual path. If anger comes in the mind, try to remove it. As restlessness is characteristic of the mind, to be peaceful is also its nature. Support has to be taken for quietening the mind. For a job you depend on a particular person at a particular place. Similarly for salvation, you have to depend on God's name. It is man's duty to awaken humanity and renounce animal instinct. Accept the adorable and discard the pleasurable. Maintain the mind like a beautiful flower which can be offered in worshipping God. It is the truest of the truths that the only duty of a man is to search for the way to self-revelation. To pacify restlessness, it is necessary to have a one-pointed refuge. The more one is in satsang, which is the nature of the divine state, to that extent desires will be fulfilled and pacified. Thought that distracts man and keeps him away from God is anxious thought. Try not to give anxiety a place in the mind. All your burden is on God. With this confidence try to remain with a simple and agile mind. If you want to be a mani, to be in vow of silence, then keeping the heart and soul together and concentrating it on a single thought, be like a stone inside out. When you see a cinema show or the mind is attracted to outside enjoyment, you don't feel sleepy. The exhaustion that occurs in the wakeful state has its rest in sleep. In sleep the jiva enters into its innate nature within the veil of ignorance. Where there is the open revelation of the self, there is no question of sleep. The more the action and speed in that uncovered state of self-revelation, the less will be the need for sleep.